Hello, you, and welcome back to Whispers After 50. I'm Carol, and today I'm going to share a very personal chapter of my life. A true story about a kind of heartbreak that for many of us is physical, but touches the soul just as deeply. It's the slow, painful realization that our bodies can't always do what they once could. For decades, my life was defined by movement. I was an avid hiker, a passionate dancer, and I loved spending hours in my garden. My spirit soared when I was active connecting with nature or moving to music, but around 70, persistent joint pain, diminishing stamina, and a general slowing down began to subtly steal away those joys. Suddenly, the trails I once conquered felt too steep, the dance floor too daunting, and even gardening became a painful chore. Have you ever felt that silent struggle of physical limitations, that deep sadness of having to give up beloved activities, or the fear of losing that vibrant, active you once were? This isn't just my true story of aging pains. It's an honest look at the emotional toll of physical changes. I'm going to be completely open about the moments of frustration, the quiet mourning for my former self, and the surprising, sometimes humbling steps I took to redefine, find new forms of engagement, and rediscover immense joy in a life that looked very different. My hope is that my journey can offer you some insight and comfort if you're walking a similar path. Let's talk about adapting, accepting, and finding new ways to thrive, even when the trails fade. For most of my life, my body was my ally. It was strong, reliable, and carried me through countless adventures. My husband Robert and I spent weekends exploring hiking trails, dancing every Saturday night, and tending to our expansive garden. Movement was joy. It was freedom. My identity felt deeply intertwined with being active, being the one who could always keep going. But around 70, the first whispers of change began. A persistent ache in my knees after a long hike. A shortness of breath that wasn't there before. A stiffness in my hips that made dancing less fluid. At first, I ignored them pushing through the pain, but soon these whispers became shouts. The pain grew, the stamina dwindled, and I found myself having to stop to rest to say no to activities I once loved. My hiking boots, once my proud companions, sat dusty by the door. My favorite dancing shoes remained in the closet. My garden, once a riot of color, began to look unkempt because bending and kneeling became excruciating. Each physical limitation felt like a tiny chip away at my identity, at the active woman I knew myself to be. It was a profound sense of loss, a silent grief for the capabilities I was losing. My children, bless them, would offer help. Mom let us do the heavy lifting in the garden. Why don't you try a gentler exercise class? Each offer, while heartfelt, felt like a stark reminder of what I could no longer do, a concession that I was truly old. I'd politely decline or insist I could manage, even when my body screamed otherwise. The thought of being seen as frail, as someone who couldn't keep up, was agonizing. I saw my friends still out on the trails, still on the dance floor, and a wave of silent envy would wash over me. The fear wasn't just about physical pain. It was deeply emotional. I worried about losing my independence, about becoming that old lady who can't do anything. I imagined Robert silently wishing I was still his energetic partner. I started to hide things a wince when I stood up, a quiet sigh when I had to skip a social dance. It was easier to pretend I was fine than to admit I was struggling, that my body was betraying me. The quiet of my home, once a sanctuary, sometimes felt like a lonely prison where I was constantly trying to prove I still had it all together. My biggest red flag wasn't the physical decline itself, but my own internal monologue of shame and resentment. I convinced myself that needing to slow down made me less valuable, less joyful, less of myself. I believed that true fulfillment meant maintaining physical prowess. I started isolating myself, subtly avoiding situations where my limitations might be obvious. I'd cancel plans saying I was tired, rather than admit I couldn't keep up on a long walk or a vigorous dance. This internal dialogue, this self-imposed loneliness, was far more painful than any physical ache. I remember one particularly low point. It was a beautiful Saturday, the day Robert and I would always go hiking. I watched him lace up his boots, a familiar routine, and felt a sudden sharp pang of profound sadness. My knees ached just thinking about the first incline. I told him to go without me, and he looked at me with a mixture of concern and resignation. As he left, and I sat alone in my armchair surrounded by silence, I felt an overwhelming sense of being left behind, of my active life fading away. It was a chilling realization, almost a silent lament. Was this my future now? Just me watching the world from the sidelines, forever defined by what my body could no longer do? Would I forever be one of those unfortunate souls trapped by their own physical limitations? The thought was agonizing, a heavy weight pressing down on me. That moment, watching Robert leave for the trails alone, feeling so utterly defeated, was my true turning point. I couldn't let my physical limitations or my grief for my former self define the rest of my life. Robert would have hated to see me like this. He always encouraged me to find joy, no matter the circumstances. It wasn't about forgetting my active past. It was about honoring that spirit by finding new ways to move, to engage, to live fully. My daughter, seeing my quiet despair, despite my brave facade, gently encouraged me to try a chair yoga class at the community center. That brave step, though terrifyingly small, was the first real step forward. This led to my first incredibly vital lesson. Activity isn't just about intense movement, it's about engaging your body in ways that bring joy and well-being, whatever your capacity. The chair yoga class was a revelation. It was gentle, mindful, and incredibly effective. I learned to stretch muscles I hadn't used in years, to focus on my breath, and to appreciate the subtle strength I still possessed. It felt awkward at first, being so limited compared to my past self, but the instructor's patience and the camaraderie of the other participants slowly eased my discomfort. I learned that gentle movement adapted to my body's current needs could still bring immense peace and physical comfort. My initial fear of looking weak gradually gave way to a tiny spark of accomplishment with each successful stretch. My second lesson was about actively seeking out new forms of engagement that nourished my spirit, not just my body. I couldn't hike or dance like before, but I could still connect with nature and creativity. I found out our local nature center offered mindful walking programs, focusing on observation and appreciation rather than speed or distance. Hesitantly, I joined. It was wonderful. I learned to notice the intricate patterns on a leaf, the subtle chirping of birds, the scent of damp earth after rain, things I'd often rushed past on my vigorous hikes. This wasn't just about walking. It was about rediscovering awe and connection, about finding beauty in slowness. Third, I learned the importance of embracing new ways to connect socially beyond the activities that once defined my friendships. My dancing friends still invited me, but I found excuses. Now I started suggesting other things: a quiet coffee, a visit to a museum, a board game night. I joined a bird-watching club, something I never would have considered before. It felt vulnerable, like reinventing myself socially, but with each new shared interest, new bonds strengthened. I learned that friendship at any age thrives on shared experiences and genuine connection, not just shared physical abilities. These new connections, born from a willingness to explore, began to fill the quiet spaces in my heart, weaving a new tapestry of companionship. And finally, the most profound lesson. My essence, my spirit, my capacity for joy isn't limited by my physical body. It's a reflection of my willingness to adapt and continue living fully. For so long, I believed my value was tied to being the active one. But I discovered that true strength lies in adaptation, in finding new expressions of vitality. I learned to forgive myself for my grief over lost abilities, to accept that aging brings new challenges, and that true fulfillment comes from continuously engaging with the world, even if it means finding a different rhythm. My journey, my story of my life as a vibrant woman, was far from over. My journey from mourning my active life to embracing new forms of joy has been truly transformative. There are still days when my joints ache, of course, but now the pain doesn't define me. It feels like a part of my story, a reminder of my resilience. I've found a rhythm, a balance, and a renewed sense of purpose and connection that enriches my life immensely. I've realized that this chapter, while unexpected and challenging, is a powerful testament to the endless capacity of the human spirit to adapt, to learn, and to find light even when the old trails fade. So if you're battling the silent struggle of physical limitations, grieving the loss of beloved activities, or fearing that your vibrant self is fading, know this: you are not alone. My true story taught me that while physical changes are part of aging, they don't have to define your joy or your purpose. You possess an incredible capacity for resilience, for learning, and for rediscovering meaning, even when it feels impossible. Remember, active doesn't just mean physical exertion. It means engaging your mind, your spirit, and your connections. It's about finding new ways to move, to learn, and to connect with the world around you. It's okay to feel sad about what you've lost, but it's vital to bravely explore what you can still gain. Have you experienced the challenges of physical changes impacting your beloved activities in later life? What strategies have you found helpful to adapt and find new forms of joy? Or what advice would you give to someone who feels like they're losing their former self? Please share your stories and your wisdom in the comments below. Your insights could truly light the way for someone else navigating similar feelings. If this true story resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Whispers After 50 for more authentic conversations about our life's beautiful journey. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thank you for watching, and always remember, every whisper of experience holds invaluable wisdom.